I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Happy 100th episode, Kiki!
Happy 100 Tuesday!
I can't believe we're here 100 episodes. And, well, we couldn't do a 100th episode alone. We are not alone this week, Kiki.
Yeah, we have a very, very, very special guest that we have been saving for if we ever made it this far, and they were kind enough to join us. So, will our mystery guest enter and sign in, please?
Hello, I'm Tony Goldmark, and I'm completely imperfect in every way.
Yay, Tony Goldmark, a.k.a. some jerk with the camera, a.k.a. the host of Escape from Vault Disney, the podcast that does Disney stuff in random order whenever they feel like it.
And I always over-explain everything.
That's why we wanted to get Tony on for the 100th, because you're probably the biggest Disney guy I know, and I know Luke will probably be jealous of that.
Well, Luke's a bigger guy than me in a lot of other factors, like how to draw, for example. But yeah, I've been obsessed with Disney stuff all my life. That's part of why I created Escape from Vault Disney, is because allowing the episodes to be picked by randomizer makes for a really good blend of movies and TV shows that I'm an expert in and movies and TV shows that I know absolutely nothing about, because they're just these obscure little curiosities that I've never quite gotten around to. So it's a nice mix of expertise and confusion.
But this one is going to be one that we're all for, and the reason this is probably the number one that we get of like, why haven't you done it before? And the answer is we were saving it for our 100th episode. We decided a long time ago, if we ever made it to episode 100, this would be the one we tackled.
And that was back when we thought we couldn't get past episode 10.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, something that all of us have been looking forward to, Muppets Haunted Mansion came out days before we recorded this. What's you guys your general thoughts on the special?
Yeah, no spoilers. Just so anybody listening, no spoilers. You don't have to skip anything. Just general stuff. Tony?
I absolutely loved it. I was thoroughly satisfied and delighted as both a Muppets fanboy and a Haunted Mansion fanboy. It was everything I wanted it to be. It's chef's kiss. Brilliant. Go check it out if you haven't already.
I love the references to the ride, even references I didn't expect. If you've ever ridden the Haunted Mansion ride, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Like, there's these things that I don't want to spoil it, but there's a thing that rarely happens on the ride, and if you've ever ridden the ride and certain things happened, you know what I'm talking about. And the fact that they put that in the film, in the special, and also characters that we haven't seen in decades show up in this special. Even segments from the old Muppet Show get referenced, and I love that.
Oh yeah. There's one kind of Muppets Haunted Mansion cross-reference that is actually kind of obvious when you stop to think about it, but it hadn't occurred to me, so I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, we've talked about Kirk Thatcher a lot before on the show. And he was the director, co-writer for this. This was his love letter to Muppets and Haunted Mansion.
Absolutely.
And Kirk is such a good guy.
I've heard, yeah.
We've talked before on the show, but I had I've had the pleasure of having some small contact with him before, and just the sweetest, nicest guy. Wonderful, wonderful man. Huge, both Muppets fanboy and Muppets professional.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a man who knows his Muppets, and it comes through in every moment of this special. So if you're the type of person who has the Muppets wiki memorized, you will immediately go, oh, okay, that is some obscure stuff they're pulling out there. And every bit of it pays off. They have redone, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but they have redone the infamous wallpaper.
Oh, yeah.
In a Muppets style. And I really want that pattern. I hope somebody has uploaded it to Spoonflower already, because I want that fabric so that I can make clothing out of it. I want the Muppet version of that pattern. I know that frequently, if you are smart enough, you can usually get that pattern if you know where to find it, so that you can make clothing out of it. But the typical Disney pattern. But I hope somebody. People have already started putting up high res versions of it as, like, phone wallpapers and stuff like that. So
I think Disney themselves did as well.
Yeah, I think the official Muppets page may have put up a good high res version. So I'm really hoping that the cosplayers have snagged that artwork and are putting it in the usual places so that I can eventually have clothing made out of it. Because, oh my God, that's so beautiful. I will say that when you watch the special, or if you have already seen it, my personal favorite part is where they take the ride, Muppets, and one particular Disney film and shove it all together for a musical number.
Yeah. Yep. It's definitely the turducken of musical song.
There is a Disney turducken musical number. Yeah. And that was brilliant. So I love that. And it was very good. And all of the celebrity cameos were perfectly placed, and none of them felt out of, like, they didn't pull you out of the movie.
Right, absolutely.
So, really well done. And I heard that they filmed a lot of it on the same virtual stage they did the Mandalorian on.
Oh, cool.
So I think that's kind of why it looks the way it does, that for COVID reasons, they kind of filmed it in that virtual space.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure how true that is, but that's what I've heard.
Well, the beauty part is Muppets don't breathe, so Muppets can't catch COVID.
Yeah,
I mean, if you had told
poor Muppeteers,
if you had told me that they had filmed this on the actual ride itself at Disneyland Park, I would believe you. Not like anyone was there.
Some of it kind of looks like that. Yeah, it's definitely a good recreation.
Yeah, I think that's why, is I think they did that virtual space, so I think they may have filmed inside the ride and then, put that footage in to film the performers against.
Maybe, yeah.
So,
but, yeah, if you haven't seen it, go see it. And I'm looking forward to more productions. I mean, they said that they have some more Muppet productions on the way when they first announced this. I can't wait to find out what they are.
Especially if Kirk Thatcher is doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, Muppet Haunted Mansion got, like, the most positive reaction, certainly from social media, that just about any Muppets project has gotten since, I got to go all the way back to Muppets 2011, the Jason Segel movie. So, yeah, I hope they just stay the course and produce more cool stuff like this.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, thumbs up for Muppets Haunted Mansion. So let's move on to the main event, the main feature of today's episode, Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins.
Well, it's better than Dick Van Dyke's accent.
No, it's well, nothing is better than Dick Van Dyke's accent, but we'll go into that.
Arguably the best movie that Walt Disney ever had any part of.
Oh, yeah.
I would say it is. I would say it's the best movie of the Walt era.
It's often referred to as Walt Disney's masterpiece, just personally. Now, the word masterpiece is thrown around a lot, but in classical art, it has a very specific meaning. It refers to an artist's single greatest work. Not necessarily their best work, that's subjective, but something usually produced towards the end of their career, which represents the culmination of their life's work. Something that just utilizes everything they've learned, every skill and instinct that they've amassed over their career. And in that respect, Mary Poppins is absolutely Walt's masterpiece. It just has everything in it. Everything we love about classic Walt era Disney is all crammed into this one amazing movie. And yet, I think the miracle of it is that it's not a greatest hits album either. It accomplishes the impossible in that it simultaneously feels like that culmination of Walt's entire life without really feeling too derivative of his past work either. It has an originality and a vivaciousness and vitality all its own, and contains quite a few things that weren't very typical of what he was doing at the time. And I'm sure we'll get into the reasons why that is, but yeah, it is absolutely. I would definitely say it's the greatest film of Walt's career, and I would argue also the best.
I'm kind of glad that it took him 20 years to get the rights, because if he had made this movie 20 years earlier, I don't think it would have been as good.
Right, yeah, I'm sure you're probably right about that, and like you said, it took him 20 years to get the rights to this movie just because P.L. Travers was so famously persnickety, shall we say, or very
protective, let's say.
Yeah, spent 20 years just flat out saying no because she didn't care for Walt Disney's work, and of course there was that biopic, Saving Mr. Banks, featuring Emma Thompson as P.L. Travers and Tom Hanks as Walt Disney, that depicted the relationship between the two. And that movie got some things right and some things wrong. Like, her reputation among Disney fans and people who've seen Saving Mr. Banks, of course, is that of, being this difficult shrew, of being this damaged woman with a tragic childhood who was never satisfied, who almost ruined one of the greatest films ever. Now, that's partly true. But at the same time, I don't think people in general appreciate also what she contributed to this film. Saving Mr. Banks certainly didn't. And to be fair, I don't think she appreciated what she contributed to this film because she famously hated the finished film, so maybe that's fair.
The day she died.
Yeah, absolutely. But for all the fighting and for all the dissatisfaction, especially on her part, I truly don't think it would have been as good a film without her demanding input, as misplaced as it sometimes was. Especially when it comes to the character of Mary Poppins herself. One of P.L. Travers' biggest concerns about the movie, and not unfounded given Walt Disney's previous work, she was afraid that Walt was going to turn Mary Poppins into Snow White. That the character, or Cinderella or Tinkerbell or something, that the character was just going to be this beautiful, pleasant, one-dimensional fairy princess who saves the day and solves everyone's problems just like that. And she's really not in the finished film. I think largely thanks to P.L. Travers' insistence. When the Disney Renaissance happened, people credited Ariel as Disney's first, quote, strong female character. But 25 years earlier, Mary Poppins wasn't taking any shit. She was strong, she was powerful, she was clever, she knew what she wanted, she knew how to get it. And as she said herself, she was kind but very firm. She's honestly kind of a badass in this movie. Like, if it were made today, people would absolutely call her a Mary Sue. Let's be honest. She was Mary Sue Poppins. She's Mary Poppins, y'all, basically. And And the thing is, after P.L. Travers ultimately signed away the movie rights, Walt went and made the movie he wanted to make. He took the suggestions he liked, dismissed the ones he didn't like, just like he did with every project. But I must say, the fact that Walt did actually take Travers' suggestions on the character of Mary Poppins to heart and actually made her more than just the average Disney heroine, that's a testament to how much that was absolutely the right decision. Like, if you even convinced Walt to make your female lead less of a stereotype, you're doing something right.
Have either of you ever read any of the Mary Poppins books?
I have not.
I have not, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I hate to say it, but they were not the sort of things I would have read as a kid.
Were they just not good, or were they just too weird?
I don't know. I have no idea. It's just
Oh, you haven't read them either? Or?
Yeah, it's that they were just not the sort of things that would have appealed to me as a kid.
Right.
So I have no idea how our, Julie Andrews, practically perfect, rosy cheeks, cheery disposition version of Mary Poppins is compared to what P.L. Travers actually wrote.
Again, I'm going by hearsay, I'm going by book reviews, in that the book version of Poppins was more conceited than the version in the film.
Right, and I know P.L. Travers criticized the casting choice of Julie Andrews because she thought Julie Andrews was too pretty. She didn't think Mary Poppins should look that young or be that conventionally attractive.
I have a theory on that.
Yeah?
I have a theory, because the movie Saving Mr. Banks does not cover this. P.L. Travers was an actor.
Oh, really?
P.L. Travers was a Shakespearean actor before becoming a writer.
Okay.
So I always thought that Travers herself wanted to play Mary Poppins and was just bitter on some level. Maybe not overly hatred toward Julie Andrews, but on some level thought, why not me? Why don't I play Mary Poppins? I don't have any bias on this. I'm just going by the fact that Travers was an actor, and everything I've heard about Poppins seems to mirror a lot of Travers on some level. So that always stuck in the back of my mind, that on some level, maybe Travers wanted to play Mary Poppins.
That could be. Although I feel like if it were anything more than subliminal in that regard, that would have been something she would have started demanded from the moment people. Because Walt was not the only person who wanted to make a Mary Poppins movie or adapt it to other mediums. I feel like that would have been a demand she would have been making overt from day one, if it was anything more than a subliminal thing.
I think like a lot of creators, and we've known a few people who've created television shows and movies and stuff, that on some level, their main character in their mind is a mirror of themselves.
Sure,
absolutely. And when that main character differentiates from their mind's eye, there's going to be problems. And I think that's
certainly the case with this movie and Mr. Banks. He's in many ways a mirror of Walt, but we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, as we said, this the history of this movie is well known. Again, they made a whole movie about it.
Yeah.
Whether it's completely factual or not,
it's not. But
it's not. But
like I said, got some things right, got some things wrong.
Trevor's demands. We know this.
Right.
But on some level, it's still her character, and as anyone who's ever had to, we've known a lot of creators who have had to sell characters that they know and love and created to another company, and has worries of what's going to happen to those characters. Mm-hmm. Especially we have friends in the animation industry who have to sell shows with full knowledge of these characters will no longer be theirs and now will belong to, Warner or Disney or Universal or whoever. They won't be stuff like.
That's the trade-off ultimately, and that's a big reason why it took her so long to be comfortable, signing off the rights to Mary Poppins. And as a matter of fact, we still to this day, and we never will know exactly how she was convinced to do that, because, okay, as was depicted in Saving Mr. Banks, when she left, her like 2-week stay at the Burbank lot, working with Walt, she still hadn't signed the rights by that point, and Walt ultimately basically followed her to London, flew on the next plane there, went to her house, and somehow coerced her. All we know is that, he flew to London, went to her house, and by the time he exited her house, he had the contract signed. To quote Hamilton, no one else was in the room where it happened. No one knows what ultimately convinced her. He never revealed it. She never revealed it. They're both dead now. Saving Mr. Banks speculated on what he said to her, but there's no way to know for sure, which is kind of fascinating to me. Like, if I could be a fly on the wall at any point in history, my God.
Yeah, there are some times especially in Disney history, that I've always kind of wanted to be in certain rooms. I think the last time we talked about this was when I was talking about the casting of Robbie Benson as the voice of the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. Like, I wanted to be in that room when somebody's like, let's cast Robbie Benson as the voice of the Beast. Like
that. Let's cast a cute boyfriend from Full House as this ugly monster.
Yeah,
that must have taken some doing to convince the executives of that, but he nailed it. It was a great job ultimately.
But I think the other I think at the same time I mentioned the 6'2" Australian musical theater actor as Wolverine. Was the other one that I really want to be in the room for.
Well, that wasn't Disney at the time.
Yeah,
it's since
I know.
Been acquired by Disney in more ways than one, but
anyway. Great moments in film history. But
right.
But yeah, being able to know what was said to convince P.L. Travers to turn over Mary Poppins is another one of those great entertainment legends.
Maybe he threatened her at knife point, for all we know. Who knows?
But wouldn't you want to know that? Even if
that'd be a fascinating.
Know that Walt Disney just picked up a kitchen knife and was like, "Listen."
That'd be a much better ending to Save Mr. Banks. I'll cut you, bitch.
Look, I mean, you don't actually know the power of the mouse.
No.
And as we said, Travers ended up hating the movie to her dying day, to the point where she put it she never worked with another American ever again. She put it in her will that no one who worked on this film would work on any other project involving Mary Poppins.
And then Disney made a deal with her kids or with her estate.
Even before that, because we have to talk a little bit about the musical, the stage production.
Right. Yeah, the stage musical.
Because Travers did sell the Mary Poppins rights to a British playwright, who then sold it to Disney after she died.
Yep. Well, there was that, but then also Disney was able to negotiate with P.L. Travers' estate because, she was infamously not just difficult when it came to Disney. She was kind of all around difficult, even to the people she knew. And I think she had an estranged. I think she had. Didn't she have an estranged stepdaughter or something, or an adopted?
All I know is that she had an adopted son.
An adopted son, right?
Yeah,
right.
She adopted a son. Travers never married, but she did adopt a son.
Right.
Who had a very troubling relationship with her once he became an adult, because after he became an adult, he found out that he was adopted. Not only that, but he had a brother out there that he never knew about, which drove the wedge between Travers and her son.
Right.
That lasted the rest of Travers' life.
Yeah. Well, she was infamously not the easiest person to get along with, just in general. So I'm kind of not surprised that the executives that her estate was a bit more malleable to Disney's wishes as opposed to hers.
Yeah. So let's. And this movie did really well. I mean, we've got.
Oh yeah.
Julie Andrews, who won Best Actress.
Mm-hmm.
Chim Chim Cheree, Oscar award-winning song, and
the movie's nominated for Best Picture, of course.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other awards. Actually, getting back to Travers for just a moment, my favorite reaction that she had to everything that went on was at the premiere. And by the way, she did famously cry at the premiere. Not tears of joy, by the way, but she at the after party, she confronted Walt and she said, "Well, I must admit, Julie Andrews was quite good as Mary Poppins, but Dick Van Dyke was all wrong as Burke. You'll have to start over." And Walt just kind of chuckled and said, "This is a premiere. That ship has sailed.
The movie's done."
Yeah. Sorry. Goodbye.
More directors in modern day need to learn that once the movie's premiered, the movie is done.
Yep.
There's no more editing. There's no more shooting.
You hear that, Zack Snyder?
I was talking to George Lucas. Not.
Oh yeah, that too. Movie belongs to us now.
Yeah.
Release the Travers cut. The Travers cut, which is just a blank screen for 2 hours and 19 minutes.
Oh, to be in the alternate timeline. Let's get the Watcher to take us to that timeline.
Yeah.
The Travers movie. Oh. I mean, he also famously hated animation.
Oh yeah.
That's well known.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure, because I know they sold her on the Jolly Holiday sequence before telling her that it would be animated, and I think they made it sound like they were just entering a painting as opposed to entering a whole animated world, because she actually pitched a line that made it into the movie, and this is the kind of thing I'm talking about when I talk about her contributions to it. She pitched the line, "Don't fall and smudge the drawing." She, which is a clever line, and it was all hers. So
the interesting thing is that although people do, and rightfully so, mock Dick Van Dyke and his Cockney accent, including Dick Van Dyke.
Oh yeah. He
some of the best
most
jokes.
Shit for it.
Yeah, some of the best jokes about Dick Van Dyke's accent actually come from Dick Van Dyke.
He personally apologized for it when he won the Lifetime Achievement BAFTA. He said, I appreciate this opportunity to apologize to the members of BAFTA for inflicting on them the most atrocious Cockney accent in the history of cinema.
Yeah, I do disagree with P.L. Travers, as Dick Van Dyke is a treasure in all other ways.
Absolutely.
In this role.
What makes it work is that, damn it, he commits to having the most atrocious Cockney accent in the history of cinema, and it becomes endearing in its own way. The whole film is a great example of something that I think Disney, especially in Walt Disney's heyday, absolutely did better than anyone, which was endearing artifice, is what I like to call it, is that it's fake and you don't care. The fakeness is the reason why you do it. It's kind of like being in Disneyland, in its own way. It's like, that you walk around Disneyland, that nothing in it is real except for maybe a few assorted birds who've flown in. But it's all designed to entertain you, and that's the point. And, like another great example of that, every scene was filmed on the Disney Studio sound stages, even the exterior scenes, even the scenes when they're in the park or, on the chimney tops, those are all filmed indoors with the studio technicians in control of all the elements. And you can kind of tell when you look closely, like when they're in the park, if you look closely, you can tell, oh, that's just a painted background. That's not a real park back there. But, like I said, it's that endearing artifice. It's that artificial dreamlike quality that enhances the fantasy element. And,
it looks like a storybook.
It does. It looks like a storybook, and I think Dick Van Dyke's atrocious accent plays into that. And it comes back around, and its awfulness circles back to being amazing, and you wouldn't want it to be accurate after a while. It's just so great as the atrocious accent that it is. And incidentally, you were talking about Dick Van Dyke. Great as he is in this movie, he actually wasn't Walt's first choice. Walt's first choice to play Bert was Cary Grant, which would have been interesting. His accent certainly would have been more accurate, though probably not as memorable.
Well, and also he would have been just awful.
Yeah, well.
I mean, in a musical, could Cary Grant even sing?
I'm not sure.
I don't.
It'd be like David Tomlinson singing, more or less. That kind of singing.
Also,
well, David Tomlinson can sing just well. Can sing just fine. Do you think it would be like Rex Harrison or like Fred McMurray in Happiest Millionaire, where he's basically just talking?
Yeah, I don't know.
Cary Grant, that's the star.
I know that one of the other people they considered was Anthony Newley, which would have made you want to gouge your ears out. Because although Anthony Newley was a singer and a songwriter, Anthony Newley, I feel safe in saying, had one of the worst voices ever.
I'll throw off my sorrow, beg, steal or borrow my share of laughter with you.
I mean, I don't know how familiar either of you are with Anthony Newley, but
it's not familiar, unfortunately. Who is Anthony Newley?
He's a songwriter, and he actually wrote that song "Feeling Good."
And I'm feeling good.
He actually did like the film score to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And he's brilliant.
Gotcha, him. Okay.
But his singing voice is not one of my favorites, and in fact is so distinctive. It became like a Mystery Science Theater joke.
When the Harlequin is on the plan.
If you don't stop doing your Anthony Newley, I'm going to throw you against the wall.
That would have been a choice for sure.
It would have been a choice. But the thing about Dick Van Dyke's Cockney accent is someone on set had to have told him, of course, because he was like the only American.
Right.
Well, Ed Wynn.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
him and Ed Wynn were pretty much the only Americans in the cast. But, well, he says his dialect coach was J. Pat O'Malley, who was a Disney voice actor at the time. In fact, did a bunch of the voices in the Jolly Holiday sequence, and was also I think the voice of the sheepdog in 101 Dalmatians, and Colonel Happy in the Jungle Book, and one or two of the vultures. And, his Cockney act, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's legitimately British, but he does have a very broad Cockney accent. So you can kind of hear how Dick Van Dyke is doing a J. Pat O'Malley impression, but it's still, but his Cockney accent is so broad that if you remove it 1 degree, it kind of goes off the rails. So, and it clearly did with Dick Van Dyke.
Since we're talking about actors, let's just kind of run down the list.
Sure.
Because we do just everybody in this is a straight up star.
Oh yeah.
We of course have Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke, who are just legends. We can't really say anything about them because they're legends. If you don't know them, you're living in a different universe.
Well,
welcome to this one.
Well, I do have a few things to say about Julie Andrews. This was her very first film role in anything. which is hard to believe because she absolutely nailed it. I mean, she was a star of the Broadway stage for many years by this point, of course, but film acting is a whole other ballgame, but she transitioned seamlessly. And famously, this is a famous story, she was only able to do this movie because Jack Warner, in his infinite wisdom, cast Audrey Hepburn instead of Julie Andrews as Eliza Doolittle in the film version of My Fair Lady, even though
Which came out the same year.
Yeah, came out the same year, and Andrews had played Eliza Doolittle brilliantly on Broadway, but for some reason Jack Warner's like, nah, she's not famous. Audrey Hepburn's famous. Let's cast Audrey Hepburn. Later on at the Oscars that year, Julie Andrews and Audrey Hepburn were up against each other for Best Actress, and Julie Andrews won. And in her acceptance speech, you know, she's thanking her husband, thanking her manager, blah, blah, blah. And she ends with,
"Finally, my thanks to a man who made a wonderful movie and who made all this possible in the first place, Mr. Jack Warner."
Throwing shade like nobody's business.
And, of course, the person who it worked out really well for, Marnie Nixon, who got work in both films because she got to be the voiceover for Audrey Hepburn, who could not sing the role. And then, of course, she got to be all the geese and random stuff in the animated sequence for Jolly Holiday in this one. So
my favorite thing about all of that is that eventually they did the Julie Andrews variety show, and there's this famous skit where it's Julie Andrews, Eliza Doolittle, and Mary Poppins.
Oh, Eliza, let's not start that again. Well, what can she do for you what I can't? I taught her Cockney. I taught her to fly. I made her a stage star. I made her a movie star.
But had Julie Andrews not gotten this part, they would have probably cast either Haley Mills or Mary Martin, who could have done their own singing. So, again, it would have worked out bad for Martin Nixon. So,
sure.
So for the sake of Marnie Nixon, let's be glad it worked out the way it did, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we've talked about David Tomlinson before.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks,
when we talked about Bedknobs and Broomsticks, of course, as Mrs. Banks, we got Glynis Johns.
Glynis Johns, yes, absolute legend.
Who was a Broadway legend before doing this role. She originated the role in Little Night Music and brought the song Send in the Clowns to the to the thing. And now that Olivia de Havilland has left us in 2020, Glynis Johns is now the oldest living Academy Award nominee for any acting category.
Oh, wow.
As of this recording, Glynis Johns is still with us. Knock on some wood somewhere.
I mean, she retired many years ago, right?
Oh, her last acting role to date was in 1999 in the SNL film Superstar.
Superstar, that's where I thought you were going. Yeah. It's amazing that was her final role in such a movie,
she retired after that, weirdly enough.
Did that movie drive her to retire, I wonder?
I have no idea if that drove her to retirement, but that is currently her
forget this bullshit.
As the two children, we have Matthew Garber as Michael Banks. He only did 3 films in his career.
Yeah, he was kind of the James Dean of child actors, wasn't he?
Yeah. This was by far the biggest one. The other 2 were The 3 Lives of Thomasina and The Gnome Mobile.
The Gnome Mobile, classic, yes.
Yeah.
Also starring Ed Wynn. And I believe, wasn't Karen Dotrice the other kid in The Gnome Mobile as well?
I was going to say that because she's also in Thomasina, too. I think all 3 of his films was with the same co-star.
Right, absolutely.
But he unfortunately died at 20 years old.
Very tragic.
So he died very young, and he was named a Disney legend posthumously in 2004. The thing is that despite appearing in all 3 of his films with him. Karen Daughtry lost touch with him before his death, and she said that she always kind of regretted that. But yeah, like we said, the other of the children in the movie is Karen Daughtry, who, as of this recording, still with us. She is 65 currently.
Had a very brief cameo in Mary Poppins Returns as like a passerby on the street or something.
Yeah. Elegant Lady on Cherry Tree Lane is her official.
That's right.
She still appears every now and then in things. She pops in now and again. I don't. She's not officially an actress still. She's retired from acting, but she does some voice work now and then. She did audiobook for a George R.R. Martin because her family and George R.R. Martin are very close. If you didn't know that. But she is the daughter of Roy Daughtry, the actor, who I actually did not know that for a long time. I am a huge fan of her father for his work on the Beauty and the Beast television series. No relation to Disney, although they may own it now.
Is that the one with Ron Perlman?
It is the one with Ron Perlman. And it was written by George R.R. Martin, which is why they have been such good friends. But yeah, so she was also Karen was also named a Disney Legend in 2004 along with her co-star. So she continues to work for Disney every now and then and do public appearances related to Mary Poppins. Interestingly, her godmother is also in the film.
Who did
her
she play?
Godmother was the actress Elsa Lancaster.
Oh, okay. She was she was the cook, wasn't she? Or
Katie Nana.
Oh, she was Katie Nana. Okay.
Yeah, she was Katie Nana that retires at the beginning. But since we just talked about all things Frankenstein last week, you may remember that Elsa Lancaster is best known as the title character in Bride of Frankenstein, the 1935 film. But then she later did a lot of Disney films, including Mary Poppins, and then she showed up in That Darn Cat and Blackbeard's Ghost, and a few other things. So.
And speaking of people who are in just a bunch of Disney movies, we should probably also talk about Ed Wynn as Uncle Albert.
A few times, but a Disney legend.
Ed Wynn we have talked about quite a lot on this show.
Mm-hmm. Most of the Mad Hatter, of course, and Fire Chief and Absent-Minded Professor, the Toy Maker in Babes in Toyland, That Darn Cat, No Mobile, and of course Uncle Albert, who by the way, in the Uncle Albert sequence in this movie, he's tripping balls, right? Like I feel like at some point, at least
he literally got high.
Yeah, literally. I feel like at one point maybe that was meant as a direct metaphor for quite literally getting high, or at the very least getting drunk. But another siren.
To find those particular jokes funny, you have to be high on something.
Absolutely.
Because even as a kid, I was like, these aren't funny jokes.
It's dad jokes, It's just.
I'm not even sure they're dad jokes. They're just like.
They're joke book jokes.
Yeah. Other kind of Disney regulars we've talked about before on the show that show up in this is Betty Lou Gerson shows up at one point, uncredited, of course, as an old crone. So we've you remember her as the voice of Cruella de Vil in the original 101 Dalmatians. We've got among the voice cast that shows up in the Jolly Holiday segment, we've got the legendary Dawes Butler, more known for his work with Hanna-Barbera than Disney, but shows up here, of course. Paul Frees, who we've talked about before, Alan Napier, Marnie Nixon, as we've discussed, Thurl Ravenscroft, Robert
Sherman, as I said,
you know.
Yeah. And the Sherman brothers themselves. Kind of a little voice cameo in here.
You know, Robert and Richard Sherman, yeah, of course. And then, of course, David Tomlinson does double duty, including the voice of Mary Poppins' Umbrella.
Huh.
Well, Dick Van Dyke also plays another role in this movie.
Of course, we should get into that.
We do have to mention that.
As Dick Van Dyke said on the special features of the DVD, he said, "I used to love playing old men, and now I have no choice." and yeah, now Walt really did ultimately want to cast Dick Van Dyke as Bert, but it took a lot of coaxing to get him to let Dick Van Dyke play the old man as well. I think Dick Van Dyke had to make a contribution to Cal Arts, which Walt co-founded, before he'd let him do that. And it worked, but it works brilliantly. And when I was a kid, at the end of the credits, when the letters on his credit are all jumbled and they end up spelling Dick Van Dyke, that blew my mind when I was a kid. That
Kid
was also,
Keed. Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. And I could swear when the letters are getting jumbled for like a frame, they spell out Da Vinci.
The interesting thing is that, of course, you know, then when they did Mary Poppins Returns, he basically did the same thing again, except they just didn't need to put old man makeup on him.
Right, absolutely. And you know, Bert in the movie, I always thought it was weird that he had a different job every day, but now as an adult, I realize he just predicted the gig economy.
Yeah.
Like, one day he's a street musician, the next day he's a screever, the next day he's the elderly chairman of the Bank of England, the next day he's the chimney sweep. You know, the damn gig economy, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about...
Next day he's driving for Grubhub, you know.
Yeah. If they'd had Grubhub at the turn of the 1900s.
Chim chindery, chim chindery, chim chim chiroo. I will deliver your dinner up to you.
Yeah.
British food ain't worth it. British food ain't worth delivery. You'd rather starve.
Let's kind of just talk about our favorite parts of the plot here.
Yeah, this is a 2.5 hour movie. Let's just I mean, everyone and their mother has seen this movie, so we don't really have to go beat by beat.
We're not hand-holding you through the plot, but let's kind of talk about our favorite bits of it.
I do want to say one thing is that the Votes for Women song has gotten really popular over the last few years, and I don't know why. I have no idea why this song about women's empowerment would get so much popular among women over the last couple of years, you know?
No clue. You know, what I find interesting about the structure of the songs in this film overall is that this is one of the most revered and celebrated movie musicals of all time, but very atypical for a musical. It doesn't really have a big opening number, unless you count Bert as the one-man band just kind of, you know, dicking around with the townsfolk. But that didn't even make it to the soundtrack album. It's just kind of a pre-reprise of Chim Chim Cheree, a pre-prise, if you will. That demonstrated tremendous courage, I think, on Walt's part. Like, he knew you didn't have to open big with a flashy musical number, you know, and certainly he didn't. In fact, it's a little more interesting if this film just entices you a little more subtly at first, and you save the bigger stuff for later on. And you know, when you finally do get your first proper musical number, it's Sister Suffragette, which barely has anything to do with the rest of the movie. It doesn't happen until 9 minutes in. It barely has anything to do with the rest of the movie. It comes to it's such a kind of whiff of a song that it comes to an abrupt end without even properly finishing. And in fact, it was only written and added to the movie because Glynis Johns didn't want to do the movie unless they gave her her own song. She wanted
Fair.
at least... She was a Broadway star. She wanted at least one song of her own in the movie, and that ended up being Sister Suffragette, which was kind of... So it was just kind of this tossed-off thing, but it is the first proper song in the movie, and that just kind of goes to show, how confident Walt was in this thing, that they didn't need to open big. They didn't even really need to close big, because Let's Go Fly a Kite is not the biggest song even in this movie. The movie's a bit of a contradiction because, like I said, it's one of the most beloved musicals of all time, but it has when you actually watch it, it has surprisingly little bombast, I guess is the word for it. Or rather, it saves its bombast for moments when they'll have the most impact, like Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious or Step in Time, and so many of the iconic moments in this movie are presented much more casually and cavalierly and without a lot of fanfare and very matter-of-factly, more so than we remember, because often that was just Walt's aesthetic preference. And at the time, it was his studio. He called all the shots. And that, I think, was one of the big things that Mary Poppins Returns got wrong. That movie is almost nothing but bombast. It's almost nothing but people announcing, how big and important, oh my God, Mary Poppins has returned. We got to make a big deal out of this, out of like every last musical number. And everyone seems to know they're in this big, important movie. Honestly, come to think of it, not unlike the difference between the original Star Wars and The Force Awakens, or the Muppet movie and Muppets 2011. I guess that was the big trend in 2010's Disney movies, just acquire or remake all the biggest movies of all time and just make them bigger and assume that's automatically the same thing as better.
I think it's more of how you remember the movie versus what the movie actually was. I think that's what they were trying to...
Yeah, it absolutely is.
I will say something, though, is that there are, 3 songs, I think, in the movie before you would get to one that anybody but, a hardcore Disney fan would remember.
I think 2 songs, because it's Sister Suffragette and then The Life I Live. You're right. 3
and
songs.
And then the
Perfect Nanny
song that the children sing. Yeah. So there's technically 3 songs, and then eventually Mary Poppins shows up and sings Spoonful of Sugar.
Right.
And that's kind of the first one that shows up in the movie that anybody that's not a really hardcore Disney fan would even be able to sing to you.
Yeah,
what's the first song in Muppet movie?
Rainbow Connection.
Exactly, yes. Which almost anybody could sing to. So it's a little bit different.
Even compared to other Disney movies, what's the first song in Pinocchio? When You Wish Upon a Star,
Yeah, it's so it's slightly different. I would argue. It does take a bit to get started. It's been a while since I've seen this film. Mm-hmm. And I forgot how much of this film there is before you actually get to the point of this freaking movie.
It's very confidently paced. It knows... Yeah. It's a movie that absolutely knows it's gonna deliver the goods, and so it can take its sweet time getting there, with the knowledge that that everything that's happening in the meantime is still charming enough that you won't drop out, that you won't, get bored with it.
I'm not hating on it. I'm not saying I fell asleep watching this movie because I forgot how boring it was. Not that at all.
It's not boring at all, even though it's long for a Disney movie.
But I was kind of shocked at how I had forgotten how much of the movie exists before you ever get to the point of the movie.
Right.
It does.
Before the main character shows up, as it were.
Yeah, it does set up what this family's life is like before Mary Poppins gets there.
And why she needs to get there.
Which is very important.
Which is important to the plot. And you're right, it is confident to show you why Mary Poppins needed to show up. That the children are unhappy, the way that Banks treats Mrs. Banks, which I think is something that is left slightly unaddressed.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie.
I mean, I feel like they just didn't consider that the focus. Like
let's
it's more.
Just say there's a reason Mrs. Banks is out there getting involved in the suffragette movement.
Well, by the end of the movie, she's not afraid to show it off anymore. She makes the votes for women, sash the tail of the kite, and so she's kind of advertising the message out there, up in the sky, I guess could be argued. Or you could just as easily argue, she's throwing that shit to the wind or something, which is not as great a message, but
yeah, I mean, this movie does make Mrs. Banks's role as a activist almost a bad thing. Like, she's so busy being an activist, she can't be there for her kids.
It does kind of turn it into a joke, which is not the optimum way to go about it. But it's what felt right at the time, and some activists are kind of flighty like that. I'm sorry,
I see it.
Great as their causes would be,
I was thinking more in the fact of Mr. Banks did not only need to learn to maybe be a father to his children, but maybe a husband to his wife.
Sure, and you're right, that part of it does kind of go unaddressed, but.
Yeah.
Like I said, I certainly don't think Walt considered that the more important part of the story. I think.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah,
I also see this is what the kids see. Like, we're seeing this life from their perspective. This may not be exactly 100% how it was from the parents' perspective, but we're seeing their life from the kids' eyes. So in the kids' eyes, the dad is too busy with work to care for them. The mom is too busy fighting for other people's rights to take care of them.
Well, I mentioned this in my Haunted Mansion movie review, but David Tomlinson as Mr. Banks was kind of the progenitor of that 90s trend of building every damn movie around a dad who doesn't have time for his kids. But what makes it work here is that he's actually an abusive asshole. He's not just some likable comedian who isn't spending every waking moment with his damn wiener kids. He actually has a meaningful arc in this, from treating his kids like nuisances and bothersome things that he has to put up with to actually coming around to loving them and appreciating them. And I love the upper class stuffy Britishisms of his performance, like, of course the children are here, where else would they be? And, Winifred, don't be emotional, that sort of thing.
Well, I do think a lot of it comes down to the Perfect Nanny song.
Yeah.
And the differences between not only the way he thinks that the children should be raised, but the way that the mother and the children think that the children should be raised.
Right.
And it shows not only his particular not only disinterest in the children, but his societal view.
Right. Yeah.
Of children in general and the raising of children, which goes along to his work at the bank. Mm-hmm. And then you see it mirrored again in the bank song, how they treat the money and the way that the English system was going on, and that the empire was going on at the time. Right. And you see it mirrored in his children, which I actually really liked in the lyrical content. It's a little deeper there, which points to the Sherman brothers.
Oh yeah. I mean, I mean, by the way, what does it say about the British, economy that one of the great satires of the movie is one child, trying to give the smallest amount of money to a homeless person sets off a chain reaction that brings the Bank of England to its knees, on par with the Boston Tea Party. I guess it's a commentary on how impactful kindness can be when weaponized.
Yeah, and I mean, I just love the fact that, Michael starts a riot. Yeah. Unintentionally, but he starts a riot.
He does, and another great kind of subtle satire of the movie is in the song Fidelity Fiduciary Bank. Just all the financial jargon that they're spouting off, it comes across to the children and especially to the audience as pure gibberish. It comes across as more gibberish than Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yeah, I like especially that while Michael is just confused, as Michael is throughout the movie, because I hate to say this about a darling, sweet child.
He gives great confused face. Sorry.
Yeah, but you get the sense that throughout the film, Michael may have a skull full of pudding. Like, it just kind of, no matter what happens around him,
he's a child.
He kind of just looks at everything as if he has no sense of what's going on. Jane, on the other hand, constantly looks like she's taking everything in.
Yeah,
but at certain points, especially in the bank, as the old men are singing to them, Jane has the most wonderful look, which I have always loved, as if she immediately clocks that this is a scam and her father is in the middle of a pyramid scheme.
Yep.
And she has now lost all confidence in her father and is about to turn him into, like, the cops. Like, she looks like she is about to leave there and call the fraud department. Like, which I love. Like, this is a girl who has just clocked capitalism is a lie.
Yeah.
Money is a social construct.
Absolutely.
I am joining a commune. Like,
when falls the Bank of England, England falls. And old Dick Van Dyke falls over.
That is a girl who is walking out of that bank and heading to a coffee shop and reading Marx.
Joining the revolution. She was radicalized at that moment.
Yeah, which I
Hey, Mom, do you have an extra sash I could borrow?
Meanwhile, Mr. Banks just has the biggest, dumb fucking exuberant enraptured look on his face, just singing plantations of ripening tea. It's like, and meanwhile his daughter's like, are you high? Are you in a cult or something? What is this?
Also the fact that these children are being cornered by a bunch of grown men.
Yes, very very predatory, predatory banking, as it were.
Yeah, I love that
over tuppence.
Yeah, Mr. Dawes is so greedy that he will pry tuppence from a child's hand.
At one point, he says, he excitedly says, "Think of the foreclosures," fuck it, which is the banality of evil right there. It's
the fact that they made that a plot point in Mary Poppins Returns.
Yeah, they made too big a deal of it in Mary Poppins Returns, I thought, but.
That was the only part of Mary Poppins Returns I liked, other than getting to see more Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Well,
Michael Tuppence somehow ballooned into a large sum of wealth that they can somehow pay off their loans.
I have my own thoughts on the end of Mary Poppins Returns, but we're not talking about that movie at the moment. The short version is I kind of objected to the idea that they thought a Mary Poppins movie had to have a plot. Which, because this movie kind of doesn't. It's a series of set pieces that don't really have that much to do with each other, but damn it, they all work, and they all work together.
But they do all come together at the end.
They do, ultimately.
Yeah.
You know,
Since we're just talking about it's a movie of set pieces, I want to talk about my least favorite set piece that has my most favorite conceit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Jolly Holiday set piece, because much like P.L. Travers, I absolutely loathe this whole sequence.
Really?
But I absolutely love the fact that Mary Poppins can skidoo. I am too much of a Blue's Clues fan not to love that Mary Poppins can skidoo.
Blue's skidoo, we can too.
You really hate this scene?
Okay, we talked about this in Bedknobs and Broomsticks when we did it. I get really bored when it's just like, let's grind the movie to a halt to go, look, we can do live action people, but also there's animation. Look at the technology we can do. Isn't this cute, kiddies? Let's put a musical number here.
let's put 2 musical numbers.
Charming. It's fun. Come on.
It's fine. I mean,
I don't like charming.
Oh, poo.
I'm a depressed goth kid. What do you want from me?
I don't mind it. I think that some of the dance sequences go a bit long.
I like Dick Van Dyke dancing with penguins, because Dick Van Dyke dancing will never not be awesome to me.
Of course.
Like, just that, please. Okay. But I don't know. I don't need to see Mary Poppins and Bert go on a date.
It's not a date. They literally do a verse of Jolly Holiday about how Bert's perfectly happy being friend-zoned.
That's what I don't like about it. Like, if you're going to have Mary Poppins and Bert go on a date, like, have them go on a date, you know?
That was a thing Travers put down in part.
Yeah.
She did not want Mary Poppins to have any kind of romantic relationship. So that was part of the deal. So they had to write an entire song to show the audience that Bert and Mary are just friends.
Yep. Or at least a verse of a song.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that apparently Bert gets his on the side, because apparently that's a whole list of what he gets up to when Mary's not around, which apparently, like, Mary Poppins is mad at, which, like, if you're not interested, then let him go get his. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, by the way, Dick Van Dyke's little patter bit about all the girls he dates, I am convinced was the inspiration for Washington on Your Side from Hamilton. That's why they cast Lin-Manuel in Returns.
Yeah, I mean, Lin-Manuel has pulled from weirder parts from...
Definitely.
So you're saying Eminem doesn't want to have a rap battle with Dick Van Dyke?
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah. But I don't know, it just goes on way too long. And then they're like in a fox hunt and on a horse race, and like, go do something more interesting.
I like it all. It's, I like
but
that it's just
then we get supercalifragilistic, and then I'm like, okay, this is an interesting song and an interesting dance sequence, and then you've got Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke dancing together, and there's interesting rhyming and wordplay, and it's a cool song, and like, that saves the sequence again, but like, I don't know.
I like the animation. I like the fox hunt.
I
also just really like classic hand-drawn Disney animation, like done by the 9 old men. Like, so do
I. I love animation. I even like the technology. I just want it to be put to better use. Like, do something interesting with it. It's just...
I think this is better. I mean, it's definitely more entertaining than the scene in Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
It is.
I like that too.
But I feel I think so many people put so much emphasis on the animated scene that Disney tried to redo it over and over again. They did it in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. They made a full animated character be a centerpiece for Pete's Dragon. They wouldn't even perfect it until we get to Roger Rabbit.
Right. Well, that was partly just the technology and the relative ambition. It took a crazy person like Richard Williams to say, no, actually, we should move the camera when animation's on screen. But
in Roger Rabbit, it's just the plot now. There's plot going on. We don't grind the movie to a halt to just be like, look, it's twee.
What I love about Mary Poppins is that it's, even when the plot is being ground to a halt just for this animated sequence, it's so goddamn charming that at least I don't mind.
To be their own, I say.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you like this sequence, fine. This is always the part of the movie where I get up and go get a snack.
Well, I'd also like to point out, now some of the character designs I feel were left over from 101 Dalmatians. Like definitely some of the farm animals look like they were also in Dalmatians, and then there's a shot with what looks like the squirrel from Sword in the Stone. So there's some reused designs, but I don't think there's any reused animation in this scene, which is interesting because Disney reused a lot of animation. You can go on YouTube and find like shots they reused in movies like Jungle Book and Robin Hood around this era.
This does not look like the Xerox animation. I think that was at the time.
Well, it is Xerox animation though, and you can tell if you really look at it closely, but I attribute that that there's no reused animation to this being kind of a stopgap project in between Sword in the Stone and the Jungle Book, and they generally only reused animation on features where they had to produce a lot more animation in less amount of time.
Also, I think that Disney threw a lot of money at this because he wanted this to be his jewel.
Absolutely.
And they really only cut corners with the Xerox when they were trying to save money.
Yeah.
You really want Walt Disney to go cheap on a project he promised his kids he would do?
Yeah. On the other hand, let's talk about my favorite song and apparently Walt's Feed the Birds.
Yeah. Feed the Birds.
That's a bit of a tearjerker for me. I'll admit it.
Famously Walt's favorite song, and it's easy to see why. It's such a quintessential example of bittersweet. It's a song about how the smallest acts of kindness mean the most, and it's a very dark song when you get down to it, about this poor homeless woman who has nothing and just relies on people buying bags of crumbs to feed the birds. And you could totally picture Tom Waits covering this song, because he did all the songs about, the dregs of society, feed the birds.
Yeah.
Early each day to the steps of St. Paul. I've always wanted to hear Tom Waits cover this. I think it would be awesome. But also it's weirdly uplifting in its own way. Like Mary Poppins is the type to see the glory in the most seemingly insignificant people and gestures. And it just works so well. And the effect with the snow globe and the birds flying around, which I feel like was similar to the technology Hitchcock would use a year later for the birds. I'd love a crossover between, just play Feed the Birds over scenes from Hitchcock's The Birds.
Feed the birds.
Feed the birds.
Yeah,
or else.
Yes. Now. Damn.
But it's, this old homeless woman has nothing. Yeah, but it's like,
right.
This one thing, this one act of kindness that anyone could do is going to bring her joy. And,
right, yeah.
And Michael wants to do it. He wants to feed the birds. And then you have, Mr. Banks saying, yeah, we're not going to do that. Why are you going to give this old homeless woman your money and feed some birds? And the line in the bank. What do you get when you feed birds? You get fat birds.
Fat birds. Yeah.
Which might as well be the tagline for the Republican Party at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The more interesting thing of this sequence, though, is who that woman is in the film.
Jane Darwell, right?
Jane Darwell. In her final film role, and she did not want to do it. Walt had to go personally and convince her, because she was in the motion picture and television retirement home, basically.
Right.
And she was basically on her deathbed, almost.
She hadn't worked in 5 years at that point. Obviously best known for playing Ma Jode in The Grapes of Wrath, and which I think she got an Oscar for.
She did. She won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And she was Mrs.
Merriweather in Gone with the Wind. Yeah.
I don't exactly know why Walt was so intent.
Walt was the kind of guy who just got an idea in his head and wouldn't let go of it. He just saw it was just instinctual. He saw Jane Darwell as the bird woman.
Yeah, I guess he just, closed his eyes at one point, and this picture came in his brain, and he was like, nope, gotta be her.
And by the way, I'm convinced that she was the inspiration for the bird woman in Home Alone 2.
She was. They have confirmed that. That was what they were thinking of when they did it. They wanted Kevin to have that same kind of moment.
Right.
So they styled her to look very similar and everything. But yeah, so Walt brought Jane Darwell out of retirement to do this one thing, and she did, and it was her final screen role.
Yeah.
Before she passed.
She passed just a few years later. Yeah.
But yeah, I love the song. I love the idea of tiny moments of charity and generosity, and then of course the juxtaposition right after with the just intense greed of the bank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how easily the bank run is caused. Like you said, just the twitchiness of they see one little boy saying, no, give me my money, and it immediately causes a run on the bank.
And
which is something I'm not even sure. I did not understand what was going on when I watched this as a child.
Yeah, me neither. I just got the sense that something that's I kind of understood what was going on. I got the sense that when everyone asks for their money at once, the bank can't handle it, and I didn't know it was called a run at the time, but
Well, this and It's a Wonderful Life, when they're talking about there might be a run on the bank, and I was asking, like, well, what's a run on the bank? And they were like, well, it's when everybody asks the bank for their money at the same time. And I was like, well, why would that be a problem? Just give them their money. And they're like, well, the bank doesn't have enough money for everybody. And I was like, well, why wouldn't they?
Like we said, it's all a scam. It's all a scam, folks.
Yeah, and as a little child, that made no sense to me. I'm like, well, if I give the bank my $5, they put it in the vault. So when I go, they give me, and they're like, no, they loan it out to other people, but they loan out way too much. So they never have your $5. So like if everybody asks for their $5 back, they don't have it. And I'm like,
I feel like
if we give out money that they don't have, and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, but if I do that, they send me to jail, and they're like, yes, they would. I'm like, so why don't we send the banks to jail? And they're like, because we don't. And I'm like,
because they control us.
Stupid.
Because they own us all. And if you go far enough with this line of reasoning, you eventually get The Big Short.
Tell me, Kiki, when did you get radicalized? I think it was when I watched Mary Poppins as a little child.
Yep.
So Mary worked on you too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the point here is with Mary is like again, I saw a little bit of Saving Mr. Banks, is that a lot of people think Mary is there for the children.
Right.
And she's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's
there for Mr. Banks.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Everything
there to teach Mr. Banks why working for a bank is wrong. Unfortunately, it backfires.
Well, yeah. Well,
after he assassinates an old man.
Yeah, the old man's kid is like, hey, thanks for killing my dad. Now I get my inheritance earlier. Here, have a new job.
It's the perfect crime. They'll never trace it back to us.
No one ever suspects the laughter.
Yeah.
And she leaves town as soon as it happens. So no one ever
she's like, fuck it. She's like, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah. One of the most interesting things to me is like Mary comes in and she does this they really go into this when they do Mary Poppins Returns. Like they go hardcore on it but like Mary comes into the children's lives, and the first thing she does is she teaches them that you can snap your fingers and your room will clean itself, which is maybe not the best thing to teach children.
Maybe not, but if
you're having fun, cleaning is a snap.
Yeah, exactly.
I will respect this film in the fact that it has an entire song about why vaccination is awesome.
Yes. Yeah,
the fact that the song was inspired by a vaccine, yeah.
Absolutely, inspired by the polio vaccine, which at that time was administered to kids in the form of a sugar cube. And of course that inspired, Robert Sherman's son had the sugar cube happen at school. And that inspired the song, and that was actually one of the later additions to the movie. That's another thing Saving Mr. Banks got wrong is they would not have come up with that song that early. They actually originally had written another ballad at that moment called "The Eyes of Love."
You'll see your castles rise through the eyes love.
Which Mary Poppins singing two ballads in the movie already kind of seems like pushing it. I don't know why they thought a third one was a good idea. And apparently Julie Andrews felt the same way, because she was the one who really pushed for this one at this moment being peppier. And there
was the song "Practically Perfect," which was supposed to go here.
Oh, right.
Which eventually went on to being in the stage production.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was that too, but also as they pointed out in Saving Mr. Banks, it speaks to Mary Poppins' character that she goes up on the word down. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. You go up on that word.
Yeah, because she goes up the banister. She slides up the banister.
She slides up the banister. She sings a lullaby called "Stay Awake." That's who Mary Poppins is.
And that's one thing Travers did like about it, especially was the song "Stay Awake," because that's something Mary would do.
Yeah, "Stay Awake." Like, she was very critical of the songs used in the movie. "Stay Awake" was the one song she absolutely insisted stay in the movie, because Walt was considering cutting that, because I think he was dealing with the 3-ballad dilemma before they cut "The Eyes of Love" as well. And he was like, maybe we'll cut "Stay Awake." And she's like, no, that's the one song you've gotten right. That's perfect to her character. You're not, there's no way you're cutting that.
Yeah, the one thing that I don't know whether to love or hate about Mary's character is the fact that, like, she does all of this stuff where it's just, she goes out and she does all of this obvious magic, and then the children's like, wow, you're magic, and she's like, nope.
Let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. She's a gaslighter.
Yeah, and it's like, well, little Billy,
and I kind of love that, honestly, but
yeah, it's like, well, little Billy, what's your favorite part of Mary Poppins? I like the part where she gaslights two little children for a really long time. Like,
we went into the painting. No, we didn't.
And how did you put the idea in Father's head? Me putting ideas in people's heads? The impertinence. She's the ultimate troll.
Yeah.
I think, again, they kind of touched this in Mary Poppins Returns, is that she kind of does her job and kind of wants to be forgotten afterwards.
Yeah. It's kind of her place to come into people's lives and make them better and then just skedaddle.
But, her umbrella calls her out on it. Because as she's leaving at the end, her umbrella's like, that you're absolutely enamored with these two children. And she's like, shut up or I'll put you through a wood chipper. It's like...
Yeah. But I do love that line at the end where she says, who would I be if I loved every kid I left?
Yeah.
And there are so many people in the childcare industry, whether you're, in childcare or teaching young children, that can resonate with that, because a lot of them do.
Absolutely. And by the way, I mentioned this film has a bit of everything. Like, obviously it's got the animated sequence. The Spoonful of Sugar sequence has, stop motion elements, and even the animatronic bird, which, the Imagineers had been developing for the Enchanted Tiki Room at the time. And then at the end with the talking umbrella, puppetry. It's like this movie has a little of everything. It's like it's a smorgasbord of film techniques.
And there's so much wire work in this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That they're constantly, flying actors in and out of places, and
especially the I Love to Laugh scene.
Oh yes, yeah, that's the big flying. That and Jolly Holiday, those are the two big, people.
But even in
flyers.
like, there's so much of it in Step in Time.
Yeah,
I mean,
during that dance sequence, they use so much wire work with moving Mary in, and even the one time where they fly Bert out over the rooftops with the other dancers, supposedly supporting him, and
I mean, I will say this: the wire work in this movie is basically flawless. Like you never see the wires. And which is more than I can say from some later Disney productions especially in the late 70s and the What Would Walt Have Done era that I've covered for the podcast, like Cat from Outer Space, Unidentified Flying Oddball. You can absolutely see the wires. This is much earlier and you can't. I guess they just stopped putting money into these things. But it's like 14 years later, Superman the movie advertised itself as You Will Believe a Man Can Fly. I believe people can fly in this movie, and it was made a decade and a half earlier.
Yeah.
You could believe Mary could fly.
You absolutely can.
Just a question about Step in Time, because they do so much of that choreography for Step in Time is based around Dick Van Dyke's very specific and unique talents. Like there's very few people who can move like a Dick Van Dyke can move.
And they found every other dancer who could in Hollywood at the time, apparently.
Very few of them even can to his degree. Like, actors who can move like Dick Van Dyke are very few. I mean, dancers, like Ray Bolger sort of had that same kind of wibbly motion. And stuff like that. But do you think that the actors kind of looked at the other dancers, chimney sweep dancers, kind of looked at this choreography and kind of looked at it and went like, "Ah, crap," you know.
It certainly requires a lot of physicality. Like in particular, the shot that blows my mind is when Dick Van Dyke and two dancers in one continuous shot have to jump across a crevice, do a somersault, jump onto a railing, do a backward somersault, and then get up and do high kicks, all in one continuous bit of action to the beat of the music. It's like, who can do that? Who's limber enough to... Dick Van Dyke is still... The fact that he's still spry enough to technically dance at age like 100, whatever he is, he's always been extremely limber, but it must have taken some doing to find other people who could pull that off.
Yeah, I love that. What was it? Some Disney special. I think it was for Mary Poppins, where they had Dick Van Dyke come out and he did a little dancing still to step in time to this day. Like
in Mary Poppins Returns, he could still do a little. He did a bit of dancing. When I was at D23 in the before times in 2019. That's when they announced the since unfortunately aborted Mary Poppins ride that they were going to build at Epcot, but thank you COVID, that's canceled. But they introduced it by bringing a bunch of chimney sweeps out who are all dancing, and then Dick Van Dyke came out and he did a bit of dancing, and it was amazing to watch that live. Like, he still got it.
I'm sad that ride's never going to happen.
Well,
it might still happen. It's just not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, maybe someday. We've been waiting for it for almost 60 years now. For God's sake, the profits from Mary Poppins are what allowed Walt to buy up all the Florida swampland that became Disney World, and they still have never built a Mary Poppins ride at any theme park. They built a ride based on the movie where Yondu says, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all," before they built a ride based on Mary Poppins. That's just insane.
They have a restaurant called Jolly Holiday.
That's not a ride, and you know it.
The thing about the step in time and Dick Van Dyke still being able to dance it, the dancers who came out to do that with Dick Van Dyke, it was actually Derek Huff from Dancing with the Stars, who choreographed or re-choreographed, did some of that choreography from the movie with Dick Van Dyke to work around his age and figured out kind of what he could still do. And they redid it a few years ago.
Right.
For a Disney something or other. I forget what exactly.
Didn't they do it for the 60th anniversary of Disneyland special?
It was something like that.
I feel like that's what you're talking about. Yeah, Disneyland 60.
But he did it with Dick Van Dyke, but then they also got him to redo the entire sequence.
Okay, that wasn't the entire sequence on Disneyland 60, so maybe you're thinking of something else, but
they've gotten him to redo it 3 or 4 different times in different contexts. They've gotten Derek Huff to redo it for Disney Night once on Dancing with the Stars, because they do Disney Night every year.
Sure.
They've gotten him to do it with Dick Van Dyke, where he danced it with Dick Van Dyke. They've gotten him to do it for Kennedy Center honors in tribute to Dick Van Dyke when Dick Van Dyke was honored. They've gotten him to do it for one of the Disney specials where he danced it with his current girlfriend and dance partner as Mary Poppins during a COVID special. That's cool. At least 4 different times I can think of that he's danced that sequence, and I think at least one time he won an Emmy for his choreography for it. But yeah, this year for Disney Night, Mel C from the
Spice Girls?
From the Spice Girls actually danced it as Mary Poppins as well. So yeah, that not with Derek Huff's choreography. She danced it with a different partner, but Derek Huff has actually redone that choreography many times in recent years that Disney has gotten him to do it to rather great acclaim. But he has talked about it a few times. The original choreography and for the film, and he has talked about it as one of the more difficult pieces of dance choreography that he's ever done, and how impressed he was at how much of that choreography Dick Van Dyke could still do as of a couple of years ago.
Nice.
And at that time, Dick Van Dyke was like 89 or just turned 90 or something like that.
So, if you have unruly neighbors throwing a party, wouldn't you just want to throw fireworks at them?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call them the H word that Admiral Boom uses, but that which by the way, just a brief aside, I'm not going to go too into the weeds on this, but several years ago, I came across this troll on the internet who went by the name of Atmay, who was a huge fan of classic Disney, but just had the weirdest, most irrational grudge against Mary Poppins specifically. He said it was racist for using the H word, which there is certainly a strong case to be made for that being racist, but it comes off as a bit hollow when that's being said by a guy who's simultaneously defending Song of the South. And he also called it homophobic because he insisted Mary Poppin was homophobic slang for poppin' a Mary or punching a gay man. But so he's a few sugar cubes short of a spoonful, but you can search @May and Tony Goldmark on Twitter to read the rest of that story. So the saga of @May, it is kind of glorious. But anyway.
The funniest thing about their neighbor, the Admiral, was I tend to watch the rewatches with a friend of mine using the group watch feature over Disney Plus, and my friend said, if you had a neighbor who like built a ship on top of their house and shot cannons off all the time, wouldn't you consider that like the local weirdo nutball or whatever? And I said, no, he's got money. He's just eccentric, darling.
Yes, exactly.
And a lot of PTSD from the war.
Absolutely. Yeah, and when the film is introduced, it's interesting, like, Bert's talking to the audience. He's, it's all, the sets are all artificial, obviously. His accent is atrocious. He's speaking directly to the camera, breaking the fourth wall. And then you go down Cherry Tree Lane, and there's this insane Admiral fucking, shooting cannons off in the neighborhood. And the rest of the houses all have to adjust to it. Posts everyone! And grab all the delicate vases and things. And it's like the movie's already kind of a cartoon even before Mary Poppins shows up. It's like she's almost the normal one, and she's sliding up banisters, really.
And I love that Admiral Boom kind of knows what's going on before anyone else does. There's a bad wind coming through. Something's going down at the bank's house.
I also want to point out, this doesn't really have to do with what we just talked about, but I want to point out that this is one of the only Disney movies ever made where both parents are alive.
Oh, yes,
Holy
no dead
hell.
Parents. Yes, thank you, Disney, for no dead parents in this one.
Either one of them. Wouldn't it be stupid? It's a good thing they never made a sequel with a dead parent. That would just miss the point and be stupid, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? I said, wouldn't it? I will not be ignored.
Wouldn't it?
So I feel like we haven't talked enough about the Sherman brothers just yet, because in addition to being Walt Disney's masterpiece, this movie is arguably the Sherman Brothers' masterpiece, even though in this case it's way earlier in their career. Like in Walt's case, it was the masterpiece he'd been building up to. But in the Sherman Brothers' case, it was almost kind of the masterpiece that comes way too early, and it seems like an artist just peaks way too early and then spends the rest of their career chasing that early high. Before this movie, they had written songs for The Sword and the Stone, which weren't all that memorable, and a few one-off Disney projects. Probably the biggest one was the Tiki 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 Room from the Enchanted Tiki Room. And then suddenly this film, they're on top of the world, they're winning Oscars, and what do you do after that? They kind of talked about that in the documentary about them, The Boys, the Sherman Brothers story. Later on, they went on to write the songs for such Disney musicals as The Happiest Millionaire and Bedknobs and Broomsticks, but in both cases, it kind of felt like every song in those movies was an equivalent to a song in Poppins, And
one of the songs in Bedknobs was a rejected Poppins song.
Absolutely, yeah, The Beautiful Bryony. And in fact, there was a point where it looked like all of the songs from Bedknobs were going to be rejected Poppins songs, because when P.L. Travers was being so difficult, Walt acquired the rights to the Magic Bedknob just as a failsafe, just so they could use the Sherman Brothers songs in this movie about a magic woman instead. And they ended up, of course, not needing to do that. They came up with new stuff for Bedknobs, but it did really feel like they were chasing Poppins in a lot of ways. And in most cases, the equivalent songs they came up with for those movies were not as good. But, what is as good as Mary Poppins? In addition to writing all the songs in this movie, the Sherman Brothers also had a great deal of influence over the story as it was being developed, and thus they got to work in lots of little asides here and there and reprises that some of which are on the soundtrack album, some of which aren't, some of which are kind of just for the movie. Like Mr. Banks singing, a British nanny must be a general to the tune of The Life I Lead. Or The Life I Lead coming back in and then turning into a reprise of Spoonful of Sugar, this very malleable, just kind of song stew that they place throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and I want to point out how much I love that each of the songs in this film is sort of based off of a different style almost.
Yeah.
So, like, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is more like a a period piece for the early 1900s. It was based on kind of songs that would have been popular dance songs at the time.
Right.
So it would have been like a dance hall song in the early 1900s. But things like Fidelity Fiduciary Bank, they were more like a Gilbert and Sullivan operetta, where it's more like kind of like a talk singing, very wordy kind of piece without much tune to it,
Right.
But like a Spoonful of Sugar is more like a Broadway number.
Mm-hmm.
Chim Chim Cheree is like a completely different style from that. And so I like how they also showed off the kind of breadth of their talent.
Yeah, definitely.
And also they tried to make it fit the time period.
Indeed, yeah, and I mean, you were talking about Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, which is perhaps the most famous song in the movie, and it's probably the single biggest and most bombastic moment in the movie, along with Step in Time. And of course, the word itself becomes a running theme in the rest of the film, and as kind of a shorthand for the value of nonsense itself. But the song itself, and you were talking about this with your gripes about the animated sequence, the song itself only takes up 2 minutes of screen time. That's it. It's just this quick whirlwind of whimsy that electrifies the screen, leaves a hell of an impact, and then boom, it's done before it wears out its welcome. And that's part of why it works so well. And incidentally, I would be remiss to not point out that later on, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious was covered by none other than DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince for the Disneyland 35th anniversary special in 1990.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though the sound of it they say is somewhat quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, then you will always sound atrocious. It's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
If you have never seen the spectacle of Will Smith rapping Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, go look it up. You owe it to yourself. You are in for one hell of a treat. You're welcome.
But one thing that I had forgotten until I watched this movie again for this is that the whole time, this whole movie comes because the kids just want their dad to fly a kite with them.
Yeah.
That is the entire thing. They start the movie with the broken kite, saying, "We can fix it. Dad, can you fly the kite with us one day?" And he's too busy to do that. Finally, at the end of the movie, he fixes the kite with the newspaper, and then they fly the kite, and that's where Mary leaves.
Yeah, and again, Let's Go Fly a Kite is a great song, but again, not a very bombastic one, all things considered, especially for a closing number. In fact, the Sherman brothers originally pitched a much bigger closing number, and Walt specifically said, "No, I want it much smaller." He had that confidence in the movie that we don't need the ending to be the biggest thing ever. We kind of it should be big, but not too big. And again, I do think that's where Mary Poppins Returns faltered a little, because it was so blatantly insecure. It had to inject all of the bombast into its equivalent number, Nowhere to Go But Up, and suddenly everyone's flying, and I guess it worked on its own, but you did get the feeling like, wow, they are really trying hard here.
Yeah.
But the family is kind of happy. The audience is kind of sad.
Yeah,
at the end of the movie.
It's a bittersweet ending, definitely, because the family is back together and happy, but Mary Poppins has to go somewhere else and fix some other family, presumably.
And we're seeing it from the perspective of both Mary and Bert, because we see the family go away and they're like, "Yay, Kite!" And they're off in the park and like, "Yay, Dad's gonna go back to the bank because he did a murder." And you're like, "Okay, yay, I guess." But like, then we move over and we see Bert, and Bert's like, "Oh, bye, Mary Poppins." And you're like, "Oh, sad for Bert, because like his friend is going away."
Yeah.
And we see it from the perspective of Mary, who is like leaving kids that her umbrella is just like, "Shut up, girl, you know you love them." And she's like, "Shut up, you cheeky little umbrella,"
Well, Dick Van Dyke says, "Goodbye, Mary Poppins, don't stay away too long. Only 54 years, is that okay?"
Yeah. But we see it from the two characters. Like, the family hasn't even noticed she's left yet. So they're like, "Yay, Kite!" But we actually see it from the perspective of the two characters who realize, like, this is an ending.
Yeah.
So, like, in the back is like, "Yay, let's go fly a kite," and all. But the audience knows, like, okay, yeah, but this is kind of sad. And as soon as the family comes home, they're going to be like, "Mary Poppins," and they're going to realize, like, nah, she's gone. I mean, the kids have kind of realized it.
She did.
But,
I mean, it's also a quick that the umbrella measures in itself is that they're all sad that she has to leave because the wind changed, and you're not going to say goodbye to us. But as soon as their dad comes in with the kite, they kind of forget all about Mary Poppins, and as the brother said, they didn't even say goodbye to you.
Yeah.
Well, because they're kids, and kids are awful.
They're flighty. You know, it doesn't matter. The problem is resolved, and she just kind of worked behind. She was kind of clandestinely, helping the problem get solved without needing to make that big a show of it. It's like she served her purpose, and now she has to go.
To go to some other kid that needs help.
Yeah.
Presumably. Or another family that needs help.
Or maybe just to screw off into the clouds again for 54 years. Who knows?
Her and Goku can ride clouds.
Yes. Her and them and the stork from Dumbo all sitting on clouds.
That I honestly feel like, as much as Mary Poppins Returns was all right, I always feel like, why did she go back to the Bankses? Why not have that sequel be another family or something?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Why not? I guess they figured you want to catch up with what the Bankses are up to by this point. But
I mean, even in the books, Travers had her go back to the Bankses.
Yeah, that's true.
Every time.
It really does begin to sound like a horror story. It's just like every generation of Banks children is plagued by the weird, mysterious thing that is Mary Poppins.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen Scary Poppins, the YouTube video.
Yeah, I did.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are tons of versions of people, thinking about, like, what if Mary Poppins was somehow sinister, but it's like it's very Peter Pan in that way. It's like, well, what if this same family is just visited every generation by this same supernatural force,
We did a third one set in modern times, the descendant of the Banks family meeting Mary Poppins, who is somehow still in her early 30s.
Yeah, because she never ages, of course, but the
Time Lord.
Absolutely, she's definitely a Time Lord.
She's a Time Lord that went to Hogwarts, and all the other memes everyone's ever made about Mary Poppins rolled into one.
Absolutely. I also want to point out, this was a very personal movie for Walt, in how the father related to the children. Like, Walt was famously a huge workaholic, and never felt like he had enough time for his own two daughters. So he was very personally invested in making this Mr. Banks' story at the heart of it. He's the one who gets the sharpest character arc. As they pointed out in Saving Mr. Banks, there's a reason that Mr. Banks has a mustache.
Because Walt had a mustache.
Exactly.
Although I will say that Mr. Banks needed some, like, mustache wax, because that mustache was all over the place.
Yeah,
that's get
true.
A comb and brush that thing down into some kind of, it really distracted me during the rewatch. I was like, oh my goodness, dude, brush that thing down, get some wax, like.
The police officer has a better mustache than Mr. Banks.
Form it into some kind of, decent shape, dude.
You got a problem with ungainly mustaches? You got a problem with unkempt facial hair?
Only on British people, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, just with
feels weird.
upper class twits. Like,
yeah, it just feels weird that is, but like on me, it doesn't make any difference because I'm a fat slob. But
us lower class folk can do
whatever
us
we
serfs,
want,
but if you're gonna be a posh banker dude,
but yeah, I get the feeling, this was released only 2 years before Walt passed away. And I do get the feeling that he was starting to get aware of his own mortality. He was a heavy smoker, and it was ultimately lung cancer that took him. And even at the time, as depicted in Saving Mr. Banks, he had this hacking cough that would just constantly not go away, and that would warn people that he was on his way. He would just, be hacking his lungs out in the hallways, and that would inform people, oh, man is in the forest. Walt is coming. Gotta be ready to present your work to him. But
we got to make sure to digitally erase all the cigarettes from the pictures in the parks.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Can't have any of that.
He just pointed naturally with 2 fingers. Now everyone who works there has to do the same thing.
Yep. So I have a few more scant notes on the movie.
Go for it.
The different colored medicine from the same bottle, that was not some camera trick. That was actually a trick bottle that the prop people rigged up that could pour out 3 entirely different colors of liquid. And Karen Daughtris, who played Jane, of course, was genuinely shocked when that happened. That startled exclamation she lets loose with in the movie, that's real. And apparently they used the first take because her reaction was so genuine to that. Like she didn't realize that was going to happen.
Okay, can I say something?
Yeah.
And you're going to laugh at me.
We'll see about that.
I have never ever noticed that there are 3 different colors of medicine.
Yeah, watch it again. She into the 3 different teaspoons. She pours.
I watched this thing on a 4K ultra high def.
Watch it on 4K again. Right after the animated sequence and before Stay Awake, there's a scene where she's pouring medicine into 3 teaspoons.
I've never noticed.
It's 3 different colors. It's 3 different colors. Watch it again.
I know that they say that it's 3 different flavors.
You're not colorblind, are you?
I'm not. No.
Okay. Well, you watch it again. You'll look for it this time.
I mean, if you're not paying attention, you're not going to really notice it.
Right.
You have to actually be looking at the spoons.
That they said that it's 3 different flavors.
But it's also 3 different colors. Watch it again.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why Jane elicits that shriek, that when it gets poured. I
always wondered why she did that. I was like, are you really that scared of medicine?
It's because the color was different, and that was Karen Daughtris's genuine scream because she didn't know it. But apparently, she's more observant than you.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if it was in front of my face, I just never noticed it on screen.
Another really cool special effect in this movie that we haven't pointed out yet, the carpet bag stuff with her pulling all this crazy stuff out of her bag.
Time Lord technology, bigger on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. If she's a Time Lord, confirmation again. I'm still not entirely sure how they did that with 60s technology. Like nowadays it would be perfectly easy, but
I know exactly how they did that because it's the same way. It's the same way or a similar way they do it in the stage play. Because it's the same way they do it. I mean, I'm not going to explain it on the podcast because honestly, it is a magician's trick, and there are some people who just do not want to know how magicians do their trick. But it is actually a very, very, very old magician stage trick. If you do want to know how it's done, you can actually look it up online in magicians forums.
But the scene where Michael crawls under the table while she's taking the plant out of the bag, like, I guess that's...
Yeah, it's actually, you can do that on stage. I mean, Penn and Teller do that sort of thing on stage all the time. It's
it blows my mind
to see it done, and in the movie it's done with a combination of that and like green screen, because you can actually see the matte lines for the green screen as well.
Right.
So they did kind of, do that, and it's how they're able to do it in the stage show. When they do the musicals. But it is actually just a really it's like an 1800s magician stage trick that they just did on film. Yeah.
I another note. I want to see a fanfic or something, or a crossover where Mary Poppins accidentally switches tape measures with Blendon Blandon and accidentally goes back in time. Yeah, because that's also how she's a Time Lord. Maybe she was a Time Lord, but she switched tape measures with Blendon Blandon before the events of the movie, and she's like, "Oh, I guess I gotta just judge people now." Like, Glendon seems pretty judgy. It seems like that'd be his tape measure.
I mean, we don't know how old Mary Poppins actually is.
That is true. We have no idea.
She's just permanently 30-ish years old. So we don't know how long she's been on this mortal coil.
A couple lines of dialogue I wanna underline here. When Mr. Banks says, "Would you be good enough to explain this unseemly hullabaloo?" They just don't write him like that anymore. You gotta love that. And also, probably my favorite line. Remember 5 days ago when you asked us all our favorite moments in the movie? My absolute favorite moment in the movie, just because it never fails to get a laugh out of me, is when Mary Poppins is tricking Mr. Banks into taking the children on the outing to the bank, and she sings, "When gazing at a graph that shows the profits up, their little cup of joy should overflow." It's so, something about the delivery of that, it's so sad, it's hilarious. Like, and he wholeheartedly agrees with her as well. She said, "Precisely, see, you get it." It's like,
not realizing that she's mocking him.
Of course, it's brilliant. Speaking of not realizing someone's mocking you, I noticed towards the end the dad's full name is revealed as George W. Banks. So, shit, he's gonna invade Iraq.
Oh,
well, I mean, he is. The British banking system was an arm of the imperial.
That is true.
So I mean,
it's all connected.
Probably,
when they're nervous because he hasn't returned home yet, and one of the maids says, "Wouldn't hurt to drain the river. There's a nice spot there, popular with jumpers." Well,
yeah,
this shit just got real. Holy fuck.
And
well,
even the cop
there was a run on the bank.
Even the cop is saying, there might be hanky-panky involved.
Right. And also the burn towards Americans when he's at the bank and they're recounting the Boston Tea Party. This made the tea unsuitable for drinking, even for Americans.
I laughed at that.
I mean, he is right. Let's face it. We Americans can't make a decent cup of tea to save our lives. But,
speak for yourself.
Well, most of us have never had a decent cup of tea. I love the little details in this movie. Like it's gotten this mostly deserved reputation for being a big, important movie, but I love that it's also got room for little tiny things that you notice that enhance the movie. Like, for example, the little spring in Mary Poppins' step when she says the word gingerbread. Or just the way Mr. Banks nervously scratches his legs with his shoes while he's waiting to be let into the conference room. It's just such great character beats. And
how he falls into step with the weird bank guards.
Right.
When they're or the interesting thing that like a lot of people won't understand, but when Banks is getting fired,
right,
and they're giving him the dressing down, when the guy takes his bowler hat,
it turns his umbrella inside out.
But specifically the bowler hat, when he takes his bowler hat off, and it's the final thing he does, and then he punches his bowler hat.
Right.
What we don't understand, like especially as Americans and modern Americans, is that during that time period, bankers in England were required to wear that hat.
Okay.
It was part of their uniform.
Huh, all right.
You had to wear that specific type of hat to show you were a banker.
Well, the old bankers aren't wearing them, though. It's...
Well, the type of banker he was, like,
okay,
if you owned the bank, but if you were in Banks's position,
he was just an employee. He wasn't on the board.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, that moment where he destroys the hat would kind of be like, them taking your uniform and like ripping it or something.
Yeah, it completes his transformation into Charlie Chaplin, basically, into the little tramp.
I love how, like, one of the board members, like, the big thing that upsets him is the fact they turn the umbrella inside out. Like, don't do that!
No, not that! Anything but that!
You know, but I love the little touches like that, like, because it would be such a absolute, and those hats were kind of expensive because you had to, you know, get them kind of specifically made at the haberdasher.
Right.
But also it's something so specific and so, you know, so insulting. But it's kind of interesting that with time, they are completely lost on us. Like, an older person in the 60s in England watching that would go like, oh my goodness, not his hat, you know, like.
Well, to us, it watching today, it just seems like, oh, that's a mean thing to do.
It's just a little excessive. It's a little excessive, ruining the man's hat.
A simple "you're fired" would have sufficed.
But it is so resonant and meaningful in that time, in that play, you know. But it's just kind of lost to us now, you know.
Imagine if that's how firing worked today. It's like not only are you fired, but you also got to get your hat and umbrella destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from a modern perspective, it's just unneeded humiliation, which
right
kind of does work with the scene.
Yeah, it still works, even if you don't know what it means.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
Well, we always end with our question.
Yes, much like you on your podcast, we have the same question here. Does Mary Poppins have the magic? Tony?
I say absolutely yes, it does. It's one of the best films that Disney has ever released to this day. I'd say certainly the best live-action film released that Walt Disney released during his lifetime. If you're including the animated ones, there's a scant handful of contenders to that throne. Like I might put Dumbo slightly above this, but overall, I do think Mary Poppins is just absolute cream of the crop Disney magic.
Kiki?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are parts I like better than others, as discussed, but overall, you can't really fault this as a film, can you? No, you cannot.
What are you, some sort of monster?
Yeah.
It is unanimous. This movie absolutely has the magic all of these years later, almost 60 years later. Oh, it has its flaws. It has its flaws, but it has so much charm in it that you can kind of overlook them. This definitely is a classic. This definitely has the magic.
Well worth waiting 100 episodes for, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't have to wait any, so yay.
So now that that's done, usually we ask our guests to give a request, but you have chosen to use your randomizer on.
Well, Mr. Tuesday, I think I'd like to take a cue from my own podcast, Escape from Vault Disney, and defer my request to my almighty randomizer, if I may.
Sure.
Smart House, initiate random shuffle mode, please.
Initiating random shuffle mode.
Make a selection.
And the winner is
Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You hit the jackpot on this one.
Wow. Yeah, I've never gotten any Star Wars stuff. I mean, I did do a one movie later on Last Jedi when it first came out, but that was like the opening night reaction to it, so I didn't get. Well, I later kind of did an addition to that about the top 12 hottest takes on The Last Jedi, but yeah, I've talked about The Last Jedi before, but I've never gotten any Star Wars stuff for the podcast, so enjoy, I guess.
Well, this is kind of everybody's. You either love it or you hate it.
I love it personally. I think the hatred for it is so stupid. It's the most needlessly controversial Star Wars movie ever made. So knock yourselves out, I guess.
Well, I will say that we're gonna have to wait a couple of weeks to talk about this one because we do have to get through the rest of our spooky month.
Okay. So yeah, that will be in about a few weeks. That will be in November.
Gotcha.
Because next week is our Halloween episode, and we are once again deviating from Disney Plus for next week because Disney now owns 20th Century Fox. So we can do a really good movie for Halloween. And as the old saying goes, in space, no one can hear you scream. As we are doing Alien.
Join us.
The fact that Alien is now a Disney movie.
Well, it was almost a Disney ride. Alien Encounter that used to be at Disney World was almost based on the Xenomorphs. And there was an alien scene in Great Movie Ride. So,
yeah.
But as Lisa Simpson said, what do aliens have to do with Halloween? Silence!
Well, we will get our proper spoop on next week. So join us then. And it has been an amazing 100th episode. Thank you, Tony, so much for joining us. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. May I plug my stuff?
Absolutely.
All right. I have a podcast of my own, as we mentioned, Escape from Vault Disney, where me and a rotating series of guests review movies, TV shows, and short films available on Disney Plus, chosen completely at random most of the time. Occasionally we do like guest choice episodes or theme months or something, or in the case of the rest of this month, a couple of Halloween episodes, but usually it's chosen completely at random. You can follow me on Twitter at Tony Goldmark. You can follow the Escape from Vault Disney on Twitter at EFVD Podcast. I've got a Facebook fan group you can join, Some Jerk with a Fan Club. I've got an old YouTube channel that's now mainly used for promoting the podcast, but the archives of it contain all 3 seasons of my old web series, Some Jerk with a Camera. So go check all of that out. And the podcast, of course, is available pretty much wherever podcasts are available. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, the whole Megillah. So go check it out at those places. And yeah, that's me.
All right. Thank you, Tony, for joining us. And
no problem.
Yeah, join us next week for Alien to wrap up October. And we will talk to you all then. Bye.
Bye. Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic.
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic.
And of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.